been a rebirth in a way, and Roy was there for the rebirth. This hasn't happened since his death. It was happening before he passed, and I think that's continuing. His death has maybe amplified how together I feel and how close I feel to the other guys in the band. Really, Roy's passing has really made me understand how important it is to enjoy every minute on stage with the guys.
In the studios, like Roy was always behind me in the booth behind me. So I'd always like when we were playing, I'd look back there and there's Leroi.
We missed him a lot in there. You know?
Missed him incredibly.
Yeah. We had some times when we could sit down and listen to the tracks that we had of his, because we had a lot of music. You know, the record starts with him, the record ends with him.
I've heard him play some of his best stuff on this record. And it was weird because, we were in the studio in Seattle last year. Nobody knew, you don't think about that. You don't think about leaving this earth, you just want to keep moving forward. So we weren't thinking that. But the way he was playing, it was almost like he knew, it was the weirdest thing. He was like, hey, I'm leaving this for you guys. You guys need to, grab this stuff and step up your game.
For all the bad, there's also those good, and the good thing is that it is his record. He's on the record, and with any luck, we'll find more tracks of his for records to come.
This is a new song. This song will always belong to Leroi Moore, our good friend, who will always be with us.
All of us were just thrashing and it was just a noise, because sometimes if you're just trying to be completely spontaneous and honest, there's just nothing but noise. So we were making this noise, and it all just suddenly fell into this perfect groove. So we were just, it's like, and Carter just blasting, and everyone just blowing, and then it suddenly was like, and it was just a great moment.
Hey, going to another session. Like that when you did that. And then shift gears.
Right. That was where it should have shifted gears.
You just do it at the end of that.
The way you played it, the way you played it.
The first record, right. That one, or the weird one?
It was like the weird one.
Yeah, we got it on that.
You went to like, where's my guitar?
Hey, what? And Roy fell in love with that. He was always like, what about that thing? We got to do something with that thing. He was always saying, what about this thing? We need to go back to that, And I never wrote, while he was still alive, I never wrote on top of that. And then Stefan took over his Cry.
I had been listening to it, to a previous older version, and just the music. There were no lyrics or anything. And I came to Dave and was like, we have to work on this. But the day he came to me with his lyrics on top of it, I was like, what did you just do? I mean, this is awesome. This is so right on. Leroi was in there, and the album title was in the song, and it was a song that we needed on this record.
Drinking big whiskey while we dance and sing. When my story ends, it's gonna end with him. Heaven or hell, I'm going there with the crew run scheme.
We all sat, we ate together, we drank wine, you know, and we all had a great time. We talked about the music, you know, and we were there to work and to enjoy what we're all about, you know, and that's making music and being brothers, you know, because it had been a long time since we had gotten a chance to really connect like that, and we reconnected like we did in the old days, you know, in the early days. We got a chance to touch base with that, to reconnect with that, and it brought some good feelings, man, and again, you can hear that in the music.
Don't cry, baby, don't cry.
Charlottesville is a mysterious place. It's a railroad town, for one thing.
Dave would always say there's something about the soil here, and there's something very fertile about it.
I first came down to Charlottesville. I moved down there in the late 80s. There's a lot of great jazz, a lot of great music that was happening in Charlottesville, and a really welcoming music scene.
All the musicians knew each other. A lot of just jamming going on, you know, different people, you know. It's just like Leroi would invite me in down to some of his gigs and some of the bands he played in. That's the kind of scene that Charlottesville was, all these different kinds of musicians coming together.
Well, for a kid, it was great because a lot of the clubs where live music happened were actually restaurants, like Miller's, which is the bar where we all sort of got our start from. It was a restaurant, so a kid like me, 16 years old, could come in, have a cup of coffee and some nachos and watch like great jazz musicians or folk musicians or rock musicians or whoever it was.
It was a happening scene. So many musicians from all over the world, actually, that had established themselves in Charlottesville and become a part of the community.
The first musician that I ever heard there was Tim Reynolds, that I remember. Tim blew my mind. He was the reason that I went and asked for a job at Miller's. And that's when I heard Leroi, and I heard all this great music happening there.
Leroi, I've known Leroi the longest out of everyone in the band. When I bartended, he used to play at Miller's a lot. He's just an amazing jazz player. And then, as I said, the first time I ever heard Leroi play, he was leaning up, he had a few bourbons, and he was leaning up against the bar, and I was making salads in the back.
I remember meeting Leroi and Carter upstairs. I remember asking them to come upstairs, and I played some of my first tunes for Carter and Leroi upstairs at Miller's. And that's sort of the birthplace of the band.
His style of playing guitar with the way he sang, you know, it just something about it that just clicked.
It's a typical situation in these typical times, but we can't do anything about it.
I remember Leroi and I looking at each other and saying, this guy has something. Let's go ahead and add our 2 cents and see where we go with this thing.
I think at that time he might have been a waiter, and he just like had this really long hair. You know, we'd talk casually or whatever, you know, but I didn't really get a chance to know him. I think he went away maybe to South Africa for a while, and he came back, and he had cut off all his hair. And I didn't recognize him at first, you know, and I remember I went down to this club called Tracks one night, and Tim Reynolds, TR3 was playing, and there was this dude on stage that was like, you know, sitting in singing with him. I was like, wow, this guy can sing right here. And I was like, who is this? And I looked closer, and I was like, that's the dude from Miller's.
I had my own band before this, you know, and we've been playing together for about 3 years or so, and that's pretty much, I guess, how Dave kind of knew me.
I think he was shirtless with a brown leather like vest with tassels all coming off of it, and a big cowboy hat, and kind of a sight for a 16-year-old kid.
Well, I'd already known Leroi and Boyd. Well, we grew up together. It's my house, then a house, and then his house. And then 5 doors up was Boyd. Yeah, the 3 of us all grew up together.
That's funny.
We used to tease Boyd all the time about his violin playing, because he'd be on the porch, you know, it's like, oh! Stefan didn't know him, but I knew his dad, and I played with his dad for you know, many, many years. And then his dad approached me one day and said, hey, look, you know, you guys, I hear you're trying to get this band together. Why don't you use my son to play bass?
I was actually, I believe it was the second rehearsal that I sat in on, and I had an upright bass. I didn't know what they were, you know, I didn't know. I was a student, and I was kind of studying upright bass. So I brought my upright. It was horrible. I was trying to play sort of this folky rock, like beat and grooves on top of, with my upright. So I quickly borrowed electric bass, and the rest is history.
We started rehearsing in Carter's basement, in his mom's basement. Then we started rehearsing in my basement. Carter moved into my basement with me, where I was living, my mom's basement. But we used to rehearse down there. And I remember they were working on one song. I think Tripping Billy's actually was the song.
We were about, you were standing underneath us, we were not together.
I was writing the tune and the melody in my house, and I called my girlfriend in Africa and I played it for her over the phone. She told me it sounded like Hillbillies on Acid, so I named it that. That's where the name came from.
Roy said we should get someone to play violin on this. Boyd was the person who came through, and he sat in with us a couple times.
I started with classical music, you know, and I studied for about 8 years or so, and I then, you know, just sort of had this idea in my head, you know, about really being in a rock band.
I went there in the first rehearsal, and we just started playing. I was like, oh my God. It's like, oh my God. You know, it's just like, we all, I guess, realized that we had stumbled upon something, you know, that was really cool.
Dave just started putting musicians together that he knew from Miller's, basically, I think, and from around town. And this is who he chose to be in the band, and that's how it started. And they just started doing their little gigs, and it was so powerful and great, and people just really picked up on it.